Introduction. This short video presentation was prepared with the intent to provide younger Taiwanese Americans with a narrative of their grandparents' early immigration experience as graduate students. This generation of grandparents would like to share their stories as time is running short for them. After the end of the Second World War, most notably after 1965, the Cold War between the U.S. and Russia continued and intensified. American prosperity reached its heyday, dominating the world economy, and new liberal immigration policies were adopted by the U.S. government. As a result, there were greater opportunities for Taiwanese students to immigrate to America for advanced study and to stay permanently thereafter. They were the first wave of Taiwanese people to immigrate to America as graduate students. The Vietnam War during the early 1970s created a shortage of American medical doctors domestically. It opened the gate for many Taiwanese doctors to move to America to study and practice medicine. They were the second wave of Taiwanese to immigrate to America as graduate students. The United States of America is a nation of immigrants. Among them, the Taiwanese people is a unique minority ethnic group that has greatly contributed to and enriched America's multi-social, economic, and cultural fabric over the past 7 decades. Many Taiwanese students have arrived in the U.S. since the early 1960s. In addition to pursuing higher intellectual goals and a better life, some have been actively involved in the efforts of the Taiwanese independence movement. Their achievements in academic fields and various professions are quite remarkable. The majority of these first-generation Taiwanese Americans have now reached retirement age and are enjoying a comfortable retirement life. Let us recount their journey to America over the past decades, from the time they applied for study abroad through their postgraduate endeavors and to the sunset of their lives in America. Decision to study in America. Once they decided to come to America for graduate study, they had to make every effort to improve their English skills, speaking, listening, and writing. Many of them would enroll in private English tutoring classes. The first step in the process to study in the U.S. was to participate in the English proficiency test sponsored by the government and to take the Tufts English proficiency test, or to apply for government scholarships. The next was to apply for graduate school admissions and scholarships at American universities and colleges with supporting documents, including certificates of graduation, diploma, and school records, and faculty recommendation letters. After receiving school letters of admission and scholarship, the next step was to apply for a passport issued by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the U.S. visa after personal interviews by the consulate officer of the embassy. Other required documents included a health examination with X-ray film, proof of financial capability to pay for tuitions, traveling, and living expenses, a certificate of discharge from the compulsory military services, which were applicable only to male students, proof of having 2 guarantors, which could be a store owner or public official, and official approval for traveling abroad by the Taiwan Garrison Command. Departure from Taiwan. Before their departure from Taiwan, they would do the following: contact relatives or friends in the U.S. for transportation assistance upon arrival. Notify the university's Office of Foreign Students of the university about their arrival dates and housing. Visit their relatives and friends in Taiwan to say goodbye. For some, hurriedly get engaged or married with their loved ones. Finally, emotionally bid farewell to family members, relatives, and friends at the airport or seaport pier. Arrival in the U.S. Most Taiwanese students would set foot on the west coast of the American continent. They passed through U.S. customs for document and luggage inspections, usually without difficulty. Many would continue the journey to their final destinations by plane or Greyhound bus. It normally would take 3 to 4 days from LA to New York City by bus. On the way, they tasted American foods, such as hot dogs and salad, for the first time. Most would find temporary accommodation in the houses of their classmates or friends who had arrived in the U.S. earlier. Some would live in school dormitories or stay with American host families to begin their American and student ways of life. Student orientation and campus life. They first met with faculty members to discuss and decide on course selection. At the beginning, language handicaps caused some communication mistakes. It would take about 1 semester for them to overcome the difficulty. Self-financed students who did not have scholarships had to study part-time and find part-time jobs inside or outside campus. During the summer recess, the school would issue work permits to foreign students in order to enable them to find jobs outside campus, particularly in the big cities, to earn enough money to pay for tuition and living expenses for the next terms. They studied very hard and toiled at their research assignments with the hope of completing their degrees as quickly as possible. It normally would take 2 to 5 years to earn a master's or doctoral degree. Once they became settled, their first priority was to learn how to drive and buy a car to take care of their transportation needs. For those graduate students staying in school during the summer recess, they participated in social and recreational activities, such as picnics and sports. Softball was their favorite activity. It allowed them to visit other places in the U.S. to compete with other Taiwanese fans as well as sightseeing. Some students were interested in the political issues of Taiwan back home and would often get together to discuss the future of Taiwan. Most Taiwanese were anti-KMT. Therefore, Taiwanese student associations and Taiwanese American associations were established in many areas. Some of the single students would eagerly look for suitable marriage partners while in school and then pursue courtships, including long-distance ones. Most Taiwanese students were successful in completing their degrees. Some students in the social and liberal arts fields would change their majors to other related majors, which had easier job prospects. Finding the first job after earning advanced degrees. Employment opportunities were much greater for those students in science and technical fields. The few who could not find jobs had to make other plans for their lives. Opportunities for the first job seekers were dispersed across many parts of the U.S. Most of the graduates found employment in private companies or government institutions. A few were interested in research and teaching. They would stay on campus to pursue teaching positions. Some later became well-known scholars in the world. Only a few would return to Taiwan for employment. Marriage and family life. Some unmarried students who already had suitable partners got married soon after receiving their degrees. Some would have to wait for the opportunity to marry later. Some would choose to get married at campus chapels, and some at local courts accompanied by friends. Some would go back to Taiwan to find potential partners and get married through traditional matchmaking arrangements, and then return to America. Most young married couples rented apartments for their small households at the beginning. Eventually, they would buy their own houses a few years later with mortgage loans after saving enough money for the initial down payment. First child and first house. Young households with infant babies and working wives would bring parents from Taiwan to the U.S. to help with child care. To save enough money for the down payment and purchase of their first house, they worked very hard and lived frugally. They chose their houses within the better school districts to enable their children to go to better schools. Growing family and children's activities. Most families on average had 2 to 3 children, but very few had 4 or more. They would try their best to expose their children to various extracurricular activities, such as sports, dancing, and music. They kept busy themselves being involved in their children's school activities until their high school graduation. The second generation. Having been brought up under such an excellent environment, the children excelled in school. They would be successful in getting accepted by elite universities and colleges and able to choose the fields of their interest. Most of their children received good college degrees and obtained the jobs of their choice after graduation. Many of the second-generation Taiwanese Americans had international marriages. Professional, career, and business activities. Most of the first-generation Taiwanese Americans had outstanding career achievements. They held good positions with important duties in the companies or agencies and were well respected by their employers and peers after many years on the job. Those who became college faculty gained good reputations in their academic circles. A few of them left their teaching jobs to start new businesses themselves and achieved much success. Social and political activities. The first-generation Taiwanese Americans have established diversified organizations such as Taiwanese American associations and various professional associations. They have also sponsored a variety of social and community activities. It is safe to say that most Taiwanese Americans are anti-KMT and wish Taiwan to become a democratic, free, and independent nation standing tall on the world stage. Some have become involved in Taiwan's politics. Some have chosen to become pro-independence Taiwan, and some pro-unification with China. A few of them even ended up on the political blacklist and were not allowed to return to their Taiwan homeland. Going back home and second career. It was not until 1992 that the blacklist was abolished. Some would return to Taiwan to participate in political activities and to promote Taiwan's democratic movement. Some of the well-known scholars and medical doctors were recruited back to Taiwan for their services. Retirement. The first-generation Taiwanese students have all reached retirement age. Many are in their late 70s and older. Senior clubs have been established in many places to promote healthy retirement activities. Some have moved to different states to live near their children. Some have retired to warmer places such as California and Florida. Most of them do not have to worry about living expenses and are enjoying comfortable retirement lives. Many have the means to enjoy traveling all over the world in their retirement. Age and poor health are their major concerns. Approaching the end of life and facing the inevitability of death is a matter they, like every person, must accept. Final thoughts. The collective legacy of this generation of Taiwanese American immigration history is yet to be defined for the future. Some say they are the sacrificing generation. Some say they are the luckiest generation. And yet others say they are the bravest generation. What do you think?